very warm welcome to each one of you again to our channel. In today's video, we are going to deal with complex numbers, and this is a very easy chapter. So if you haven't done it, it'll be like you can do it very easily, and if you have completed you can get a revision of it. So let us start with it, and before starting with it, a disclaimer that please do like, share and subscribe to our channel so that we get motivated to provide you with such fresh, good content which will be of great help to you in your studies. Okay, so let us start with it. Maybe it will be a big one because there are several topics that are there, but mind it, and it is going to be very easy for you. So just quickly seeing to it. First of all, what do we mean by complex numbers? We haven't heard this term yet, means before class 11th we haven't started it. So what is it? And so please remember this is a part of class 11th, and we are doing this video especially for class 11th ISC with the reduced syllabus. That means the locus part which is there, that is not given in this because we are not having it for the session 2020-21. So if you don't know what is a reduced syllabus, then please watch this video. You will be helped by it. Okay, so let's start with it. So what do we mean by complex numbers? Let me just write down two equations over here. Equations we have done very nicely now. If you haven't watched, then go watch the previous videos. You will be knowing that what do we mean by equations. What's the quadratic one, what's the trigonometric one, whatever thing you like, whatever thing will help you. Watch them and then come back to the complex numbers. Right, so let us see two equations right now. First of all, I have written over here this, and other side I am writing the equation this. Now I want to find out the solution for it, or basically I want to know what will be the value for x, right? So from the first equation, this is equal to 0 over here. Now the second one I can easily solve because I can write it as x square is equal to 9, and when I do then x will be equal to plus minus under root of 9. That means I can get x is equal to plus minus 3. This we know, we have started this thing. So we know that x is equal to plus minus 3. That means if I take plus 3 square, then I am getting 9. And even if I take minus 3 square, I am going to get plus 9 with me. Okay, so this part is done. This equation we have easily solved. Now coming back to the first part, that was the left hand side. How to solve this equation? If I write this, x square is equal to minus 9, that means x is equal to what? Under root of minus 9. Now here comes the problem. Because I have seen for minus 3 and for plus 3, both I am going to get plus 9. Then what about this minus 9? How to get this minus 9? So for solving such equations where we cannot have a real valued solution, for them the number system that was the real number system that was extended, and to such an extent that we got introduced with the complex numbers. So that is what complex numbers are. That means whenever we are having equations of this form in which we have under root of negative values which we cannot take out, which we cannot bring out of the root, of the square root, or of the multiples of 2 that we have, even roots which we have. So then in order to bring the value out of those square roots, or the they could be biquadratic equation could also be there. So from such roots, then the number system that was introduced was the complex numbers, and these numbers are imaginary numbers. These numbers are imaginary numbers. Now what is that number that has been introduced? So can I see this thing? It is minus 9 over here under root. That means I can write it as under root of minus 1 into 9. Will there be any problem with us? No, we can write it simply like this. Then even I can separate them. I can write it as minus 1 and 9. And 9 I know it will become plus minus 3 easily. So and this is left out. That means x is equal to plus minus 3 and under root of minus 1. So the same thing, this entire one, that is under root of minus 1. In order to write this value, I have a number, or you can call an alphabet, I. This is I. So this is a complex number that I have, and with the help of this I can represent all my imaginary numbers. So in place of under root of minus 1, I will be writing I. That means x will become equal to plus minus 3i then. So then this is how I have solved it and I have got the solution for my equation. So is it very much clear now that what do we mean by complex numbers? Whenever we are having squares like of this form, that means the square roots, under square root we have such values, negative terms, it is not possible for us to get them with the help of the general quadratic equations the way we used to solve them. And so in order to solve and get the solution for those equations, we extended the real number system to the complex number system, and so here we have the complex numbers or the imaginary numbers, right? I hope that this part is very much clear. Now from here only, so this imaginary number is done. Now we will be talking about the integral parts. Right now only, just now only I have seen that under root of -1 is equal to I. So let us just talk about this part only. We have under root of -1, this is equal to I. Now when I square both hand sides, squaring both hand sides means if I remove this square root, that means this is 1 by 2, this is equal to I. Can I write under root, that means square root as 1 by 2? It will have the same meaning. Now I am squaring. Squaring means 1 by 2 into 2 I am doing, and this side also I am doing 2. This 2 getting cancelled, that means -1 is equal to I square. So I get I square is equal to -1. Nothing we have done. We have simply squared both hand sides, and with the help of which we have got this thing up, out of the square that was there, and so this becomes easier for me to learn that I square is equal to -1. It becomes easier for me to learn that is I square is equal to -1. Now I have seen I is equal to under root of -1. I square is equal to -1. Then what do we have for I cube? These are the integral powers. It means integers we are increasing, and we are saying that what will be the power. So I have got I is equal to under root of -1. I square I am having as -1. Right now only I saw. Now when I have to get the value for my I cube, then can I write I cube as I square into I? Because when I have the same bases, then my powers are added. So the base is being same, powers getting added, so 2 plus 1, that is 3. So it becomes I raised to the power 3. So I can write I cube as I raised to the power 2 into I, right? And I raised to the power is -1 into I, so it becomes minus I. Then I have I raised to the power 4, which I can write in the form of I raised to the power 4, I can write it as I square into I square. I square I know that is equal to -1 into -1, that becomes +1. So here I am getting +1. And similarly when I have I5, you will be getting the value as under root of -1. Then I square if you have, that is I raised to the power 6 when you have, then you will be getting -1. So that means you can see there is a trend that is being followed, and that trend says that my values are going to repeat after the interval of 4. See, this was one pair over here. I was starting from under root of -1, I got -1, I got -I, +1, and then similarly my values are going to repeat. And see, just one more thing, when I am having I raised to the power 4, I am getting +1. That means whenever I will be having any number in the power form which will be a multiple of 4, there I will be having the value as +1. Okay? I hope this part is very much clear now. Suppose I have I raised to the power 20 if I have to get. So I can simply write I raised to the power 5 into 4, that is equal to 20. And when 4 is multiplied to it, then definitely it is going to be 1. So simply my answer becomes 1. If I have I raised to the power 22, then I can split it into I raised to the power 20 into I raised to the power 2. Right? This I know is 1 only, and I square I know is -1, therefore it becomes -1. My answer becomes -1. So this type of questions also you will be getting, where you will have to resolve them and get the value in the simplest form. So this is what we have done, the integral powers. Now, after this integral powers, we have the properties, of complex numbers. So properties of complex numbers. Before starting with the properties of complex numbers, let us just quickly see one more thing, and that is how do we represent the complex numbers. Like the general form of representation of whole numbers and all that is the simple digits, but how to represent complex numbers? Then the general form is, you can write x plus yi, or even you can write it as a plus bi. This is how you generally represent it. Now see, having a little discussion on it. This x part is the real number part. This is the real valued part, it is there, and this y which is there, this is the not only the y but this entire part, that is yi. This is the imaginary number part that is there, imaginary part of this complex number, and this real part plus the imaginary part together makes my complex number. That means I can have questions of this form, that is 2 plus 3i. I can have -1 minus 4i. So like this, the second part will be I, that is the imaginary part which I have, with which my I is attached. And the first part which is there of my, solution of my question, then that will be forming my real number part. Over here, A is the real valued and BI is the imaginary part of my complex number. This is how I represent my complex number, right? This is done, the representation of complex number. Now, if in a question is there with me, and in that question, if my real number, that is A, is 0, that means it becomes purely imaginary, because real number is not that, therefore it becomes my purely imaginary number. In the other case, when I have the imaginary part is 0, that means if B is 0, then it becomes my purely real number. This is the basic thing, just understanding, like if A is not there, that means real number is not there, therefore it becomes purely imaginary. If B is not there, that means the imaginary part is not there, therefore it becomes purely real. Is it clear? Now after this, having a discussion on the properties, 2-3 properties only we are supposed to see, rest everything is going to be the same. When we will be doing the multiplication addition for them, then it will become even more clear with you. So properties, if you see, then simple properties are there, like A plus BI, this is my general form, I am representing a complex number. Now they say that my complex number, the entire complex number will become 0 only and only if A is 0 and B is 0, right? This is one property that you can remember, you can prove it also. Right now just seeing the property, that is A plus BI will become 0 only and only if my A will become equal to 0 and B will become equal to 0. Okay, so these only. Now after this, our second property is that my real number cannot become equal to the imaginary number which is there until and unless I have both the real number and the imaginary number equal to 0. This is the second property that I have. Okay, and the third property is my two complex numbers are said to be equal only and only if the real number which is there of both of them is equal and also the imaginary numbers are equal. That means if suppose I have a complex number, say x plus yi, then x plus yi will become equal to A plus bi only and only if, provided x is equal to A and y is equal to b. And please mind it, here the x value which is there, this is the real number has to become equal to the real number part that is there, and imaginary number, the one which is connected with the I value, has to become equal to b, otherwise these two complex numbers will not be equal. And so the sequence has to be kept in mind, that first we write the real number and then the imaginary number. Otherwise, if you get confused with it, then there may be problems in solving. So you will be getting questions based on it. Maybe like you will have an equation like x minus 3 plus 5i. This is equal to, they are saying that two complex numbers are equal. This is equal to what? 5 plus 7yi, then find out the value for x and y. So like this you may get the question. So you need to be careful that whatever part is I, you are supposed to equate this with the other hand side's I part only, and the real part with the real part. Right, so these are the properties that we were having for complex numbers. Now quickly seeing the geometrical representation of a complex number. So like we used to represent our real numbers on a coordinate plane, right, with the help of coordinate axes. In the representation, that is although it is not a part of our syllabus for this year, still a briefing of it. The geometrical representation will be like this. The plane that we use is known as an Argand plane. Rest everything is the same. The only thing is that this x-axis which was there in the case of real numbers, this will be used to represent the real numbers which is there. It is a real part. So if I have a plus bi, then I'll be representing A on this one, and this y-axis which is there, this is going to be used to represent my imaginary part. That means B will be represented here. So if it is plus B, then this side. If it is minus B, then the other side. If it is plus of my real number, then this side. And if it is a negative of it, then on the other hand side. So this is how I got my geometrical representation also. Now I'll be quickly seeing the operations which are there based on these complex numbers only. So operations are going to be the same. The only thing again that you need to keep in mind is whenever you are having two complex numbers. So let us assume now in our case x1 plus y1i is one complex number and the other complex number is x2 plus y2i, and now we are going to play with these two numbers only. Okay. So over here, if I have to add them, say we are supposed to add them, then how are we going to add them? We'll be adding the real numbers together and the complex numbers together. This is as simple as that. That means my addition will become x1 plus x2 plus y1 plus y2 into I as it is. This is how I have to add them. Real numbers together, the complex part together, and we are done with it. And similar, when you have to subtract them, then subtraction will be what? This is the positive term, negative term, so real together, x1 minus x2, then plus y1 minus y2 into I as it is. We have taken common. This is how I have to, subtract them. This is a plus sign in between. This is how I am supposed to subtract them. Then another thing is that when I have to multiply them, then how to multiply them? Then multiplication will be like the way we used to do. This is one complex number, this is the other complex number. So x1 multiplied with x2 first of all, then x1 with y2i, then y1i with x2, and then y1i plus, then y1i with y2i. The general way we used to do them in the same way as we used to solve for the real numbers. Then another thing that we have is a division. So division, that means if I have x1 plus y1i and upon I have x2 minus y2i, then first of all what am I going to do is I'll be trying to eliminate this I from the bottom, from the denominator part. So I'll be multiplying with the conjugate. We'll be starting with the conjugate part later on. Just right now you understand, with the, if it was negative sign, then with the plus sign we'll be multiplying and dividing both hand sides. Both hand sides what? Multiplying and dividing by the same term, and then simply solving as we used to do the multiplication. Then you'll get your answer for the division part. Now after this division, we have the multiplicative inverse and additive inverse and negative of a number. So negative of a number, so if suppose my number is x plus yi, I have to get the negative of this term. So my z is a complex number. Let us assume that this z is there, which is equal to x plus yi. Then the negative of z will become equal to negative of x plus yi, isn't it? And so we are going to multiply this negative sign both with both the terms. That means it is minus x minus yi. This becomes equal to minus of z, that is minus x minus yi. Please remember, multiplying the minus sign, negative sign to both the terms and not with one term. If you are doing to, remember it with both the terms. This is a negative that we have got. Now after this negative one, we have additive inverse. So additive inverse is nothing but the negative term only. Because what do we mean by additive inverse of a number? So when I talk about the additive inverse, that means say z is my complex number, and that is equal to what? X plus yi. Then negative inverse is such that this x plus x1 is this number, plus x2 if I take the other number, then it becomes equal to 0. Then that is my additive inverse that I have. So how can I get this equal to 0? If my z1 is x plus yi plus I do z2, then that is equal to 0. Then it means z2 is equal to minus x minus yi. That means z2 is equal to minus, I can take common, that is x plus yi. That means it is nothing but the negative of z. Negative of z1 in this case. This is my additive inverse. And when I talk about the multiplicative inverse, so multiplicative inverse will nothing, it is going to be the reciprocal of the number which I have. So that what happens? my number again z, that is equal to x plus yi, assuming it to be z1, multiplicative inverse is such that x1 into x2 when I do, then it becomes equal to 1, isn't it? So my x1 is x plus yi into x2 becomes equal to 1, that means z2 that is equal to 1 upon x plus yi. So that means it is the reciprocal of the complex number which I have. So here we have done the operations also. Now seeing the conjugate. Now what is the conjugate of a complex number? So let my complex number be x plus yi. Conjugate, as we know, conjugate is nothing but the negative. That means the sign is reversed. That becomes my conjugate for the real numbers. So here in this case, the only thing that you have to be careful about is when I am talking about my conjugate, then always the sign that is there which is changed, that is always of the imaginary number and not of the real number. That means my complex number is z, and that z is equal to what? A plus bi. Let us assume. Then the conjugate we represent with the help of bar. That means z bar. This is read as z bar or the z conjugate. Okay, or the conjugate of z. Then that is equal to a minus bi. That means the sign which is there of the imaginary part, that is reversed. That means if I have a question like 2 plus 3i, then my z bar, that is the conjugate of it, becomes equal to 2 minus 3i. Suppose I have a question like minus 3 minus 5i, then what will be the conjugate of it? Quickly seeing, minus 3 plus 5i, because I am supposed to change the value of, change the sign which is attached with the imaginary part, and I have got nothing to do with the real part. So this becomes my conjugate. So I hope this part is also clear now. The conjugate one. Now seeing the properties of conjugate. So properties are going to be quite easier. Like if I have the conjugate of any number, then that becomes equal to my number only. That means z is there. We have the conjugate of this. So let us assume z is this. The conjugate of it is a minus bi, and then I have to get the conjugate of this also. Then what will it become? It will become equal to a plus bi, and are not my z and z conjugate equal? That is the same property over here, right? And similar will be there. So like you can just these are the properties that you don't have to learn. As such, if you get them in proving, then you can easily do them, right? Now directly coming to the modulus part. What do we mean by modulus? So remember one thing, modulus is equal to the absolute value always. So whenever we talk about the modulus, we have the absolute value in mind. That means the complex number when we're talking about, so the modulus of a complex number will become equal to the square root of the squares of the real part and the imaginary part. That means the modulus, if I have to calculate for z within these brace as you call it, within these lines, straight lines we represent, this is basically the meaning, that is the modulus. We call it the modulus of z. Then that is equal to the absolute value we want. That means it will be equal to under root of the real part square plus the imaginary part square. This is my modulus. That is a real part square plus the the imaginary part square, and under root of that will give me my modulus, that is z bar. Sorry, not z bar, but this is the modulus part. So this is there. Okay, this is my modulus I have seen. Always it will be an absolute value. Right? Now straight line. So what is a straight line? Now you might get questions based on it that you have to prove whether these 3 points are lying on the same straight line or not. Then we have seen these questions in the like in the geometry part also, but again I'll be talking about it. So if suppose I have a straight line, let us assume that ABC is a straight line. Then we have learnt it in our previous classes that AB plus BC will become equal to AC, then only it will be a straight line. So simply when we know this property, then what are we going to do? We will calculate the value for AB, for BC, and we will calculate the value for AC. Now if it comes out to be equal, how to calculate the value? The absolute value, that means the mod function of it. The modulus of it we will calculate, and if it comes equal to AC, then hence proved. Okay, so this is a straight line one. Now talking about the properties of modulus. Now what are the properties of modulus or moduli? Then seeing the properties. Yes. The first thing that you can keep in your mind is whenever you have two complex numbers, like one complex number is there a plus bi, then I have the conjugate of it. What will be the conjugate for this? It will become equal to a minus bi, right? And now when I have to get the mod function of this, then this will also become equal to a square plus b square, and then this will also become equal to a square plus b square. Why? Because if I do minus b square, then that is also plus b square. That means the value which will come out of it will be the same. That means the modulus which is there of any complex number or the conjugate of that complex number, they're gonna be the same, right? So that is there. So the modulus will come out to be the same. Rest properties you can prove, you can solve them. Then after this, one property is that you need to keep in your mind. Yes, one more property, that if you are calculating the value which is there, then the real part which is a over here, then this real part which is there, the real value, the real value which is there, this will always be greater than equal to negative times the function that was there, the mod of that function, and it will always be less than equal to plus times the modulus of the function that you have, of the complex number that you have. And so will be the case with the imaginary part also. That is, the imaginary value which is there, it will be always greater than equal to negative of the modulus of the complex number, and it will be less than equal to what? The modulus of the complex number that you have. You can prove it. When you will be solving the questions, you will see automatically that this is going to be the case with you. So we have seen these properties which were there. Now coming to the polar representation, only a small part of this chapter is left out now. What do we mean by the polar representation? And with the concept of polar representation only, you will be understanding about the argument or the amplitude of a complex number. So polar representation, this representation which we were doing now, that representation which we are doing, that is known as a triangular representation we have, or the rectangular representation. Now please see one more property that is left out for the modulus one. That is basically, if you calculate the modulus of z1 plus z2, then this will always be less than equal to separate modulus. That means z1's modulus plus z2 modulus, separate modulus. This z1 plus z2 modulus will always be less than equal to z1 modulus plus z2 modulus. This is another property that you can prove out. Now coming to the representation, the polar representation that we have of complex numbers. Now, the way we used to represent them, yes, and one more representation is there when we are representing with the help of that Argand plane, then in that form, that means x comma y form you're supposed to write them. That means this x plus yi, which was my complex number, now this is going to be represented as x comma y in the coordinate system, right? So x is the real part and y is the imaginary part. Okay, now this can also be represented in the form of r comma theta. This is a polar form of representation. Remember this thing, r comma theta. It always have to follow this order, that is r comma theta. Now what are these two values? So r, if you see, then over here r is the modulus of the complex number. That means if I have modulus, my complex number is a plus bi, the modulus of this becomes a square plus b square under root of it, right? This is my modulus and this value is equal to r. So r is equal to under root of a square plus b square. That means my modulus, so that modulus will be there, comma, now what is this? The theta. Theta. Now what is theta? We know that tan theta is equal to the slope that we have. So with the Argand plane will come to the fact that whenever I have tan theta, then that is equal to the imaginary part upon the real part, the modulus for it. The modulus for the imaginary part upon the real part. That means from here I can get the value for theta. That is theta is equal to tan inverse the imaginary one upon the real part. So this is my theta value, that is tan inverse imaginary part upon the real part, and this is nothing but the amplitude or the argument of a complex number as we call it. So theta is equal to tan inverse. Theta is the argument or the amplitude, and so this representation, that is in the form of polar one, polar representation. In polar representation, I represent my complex number with the help of the modulus of the complex number and the argument, where the modulus is equal to under root of the real part square plus the imaginary part square, and my amplitude or the argument is equal to theta, where theta is equal to tan inverse the imaginary part upon the real part. Is it clear? This is a polar representation, r comma theta. Or you can also write it as, if you want, then r comma theta could also be written as r and comma you have the cos theta plus I times sin theta. This is how you represent in the form of polar, in the polar form. Okay, cos theta plus I sin theta. This is the polar form. Now argument or amplitude we have already seen. This is you can represent with the help of theta only, or alpha also you can use, but theta is the most appropriate one for it. So theta, that is equal to what? Tan inverse the imaginary part upon the real part. So like this you have theta, and this is known as the amplitude or the argument. Now after this, just the two little topics now, and these are very important ones. So please be attentive, be careful while studying them, because you will definitely get at least one question based on them, especially the last part that is there. Now there might be questions provided to you in which they will be saying that, let us assume the question. Okay, now they are saying that x plus yi is a complex number and the square root of this complex number is equal to a plus bi. The square root of this complex number is equal to a plus bi. I hope we can frame with the word problems which are there, we can get the equation with the help of those word problems. So they are saying that the square root of this complex number is equal to a plus bi. Now doing nothing but solving it. How to solve it? Squaring both hand sides so that I can get rid of my square root. That means I have x plus yi equals to a plus bi square. Now simply solving it the way we solve it, that means then I will be having x plus yi is equal to a square plus b square I square plus 2abi. What are we doing? Simply a plus bi, that is basically a plus b whole square, expanding the term. So a square plus b square plus 2ab. Now this x plus yi is equal to a square. I square I know is equal to minus 1. That means it becomes minus b square plus I have 2abi. Now equating the real part with the real part and my imaginary part with the imaginary part. That means I'll be having two equations, that is a square minus b square is equal to x, and the other equation will say that a 2ab I is equal to bi, or simply 2ab is equal to y. Solving them, whatever values are given to you and getting your answer. This was for the square root that we were doing. So please understand this thing, because here you might make confusions, you might be confused and you might make mistakes over here, that what is the square root of what. So please read the question carefully, that they are saying x plus yi, the square root of x plus yi is equal to a plus bi. So you need to learn, and you need to learn how to frame the equations that we have been doing since very beginning. But still, if you don't know, then please work on it, because until and unless you don't know how to, and you don't know how to understand the question, you won't be able to solve the problems. So please have that basic understanding that what the question actually wants. Then, so the first thing, there are three steps that you have. First step is you need to understand the question very well. Until and unless you don't know what is the question saying, what is there they are asking, what is given in the question, you won't be able to solve it. And second thing is that the concepts has to be very much clear. If you have them clear, then anyhow you'll be able to solve them. And third thing will be definitely your practice. Okay, so the square root part is done. Now after the square root, the only thing that is the last part is the cube root of unity. So what are the cube roots of unity? So we'll be deriving them now. Okay, cube roots of unity. So let us say, now what to say? Not to say anything, but we have x is equal to 1. Let us assume that x is equal to 1. Now if I write x is equal to 1 raised to the power 1 by 3, is it going to have any difference? No, because x raised to the power any term will be equal to what? 1 only. Okay. So now when it is 1 by 3, I can write cube root of x is equal to 1. I can write cube root of x is equal to 1. Can I? That means I can write x raised to the power 1 by 3 is equal to 1. Okay, I can write it this way. That means from here I get, that is basically, here is this mistake that I made. I'm really very sorry for it, because I'll be doing the cubing both hand sides. Sorry for this step. Over here I'll be doing the cubing for both sides, because I cannot write like this. So cubing both hand sides, and by cubing simply I get, that is x cube is equal to 1. Okay, so we get x cube is equal to 1 from here. That means we have x cube minus 1 is equal to 0. Now solving with the help of a cube minus b cube, that is equal to what? A minus b, a square plus b square plus ab. Do we have this formula? If you don't know, then see from here. Then we can write it as